All right, guys, what's up? It's Cyclone here, and look, I have to do this. Um, I saw this guy's video, and immediately I was like, here we go again. This is fun, and I don't want to say, like, I know better than other people. This is all fictional. This is all fan opinion. And I just had to do a quick reaction to this guy's take on the top 10 strongest Hunter x Hunter characters. This has been done ad nauseum, but the fact that somebody wanted to make a video about it and really proclaim this, of course, now you open up the floor for thought and critique. And I have a little bit of time here to do this, so let's get started.
What's up, guys? It's me, Deshaun, and welcome to my top 10 strongest characters in Hunter x Hunter video. Now, before we dive in, I must point out a few things. Obviously, I put a lot of thought into this list, but there might actually be characters that exist inside of the series that might be stronger than even the top 10 characters on this list. But due to a lack of information on those characters such as Benjamin Periston, the Zodiacs, and the soldiers that Beyond Netro has handpicked to accompany him on the Dark Continent. When it comes to these characters, I don't think it would be far-fetched or wrong to assume that a character like Periston could be in the same league as Ging, obviously. I'm not saying that Periston is on Ging's level, but the fact that Netro would want him as vice chairman for a challenge to make things more interesting, and the fact that Ging himself is keeping a very close eye on him, I personally feel like that you could argue.
He does say Ging. Jing is how they pronounce it in the anime. I go with Jing. I think that's how you pronounce it, but that's all right.
That Periston has the potential to be top 10, but due to the lack of information, I cannot necessarily put him on this list. So if there are characters like that you're expecting to be on this list, just know they're not on this list due to a lack of information and not because I don't acknowledge their feats or might have forgot about them.
I can't wait.
With all that being said, let's jump into this top 10 with our number 10 spot. Now, it's really hard choosing who would be the number 10 spot between the Royal Guards because unfortunately one of them would have had to been cut from the list. They all excel in different aspects, and I ultimately decided to put Poof in the number 10 spot over Patal. And it is mainly because
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I hear those words and I go, oh, shit. All right, before I get like animated about this, let's talk about feats. We know these two characters and their feats. Let's just start with this basic fact. All three Royal Guards are capable of being Royal Guards for Meruem. So we got to start at a base level that they're all relatively in the same league. So if they're in a list, they're in like basically the same three, tiers from each other. A lot of people say that Poof is not a combatant, and I think people don't quite understand what Poof's objectives are in that fight. He's trying to gain intel in the invasion. The more you can learn about enemies and their powers and what their motivations are, the more you can gather, learn, and take advantage of. And we know that Poof is really a manipulator by trade. And so because of that, he's trying to gather information. He, like in a Succession War setting, is a god. But he's still an ant that can still move at full power. We only saw a subsection of him fight Killua Godspeed. People don't remember this. He was not only drained of his life essence, but it was also a clone of him. So you stack those factors on top of each other. He was way below his actual strength at that point. It's not even comparable. Full power Poof is faster than any human hunter besides Dolko. We didn't see it, but the fact of the matter is that Pito matched Godspeed Killua's reaction time. And to me, Godspeed Killua, Netero, Adult Gon are the fastest humans in the verse. But then you got proof that in a straight line, you could argue that Tsubone is faster with her ability in a straight line, at least acceleration. But to say that, a Royal Guard is hindered because they didn't show combat prowess during the Succession War, during the Invasion War, Poof hypnotized 5 million people. I think it was 5, right? Was it 5 or was it 30 million? It was some. He hypnotized a nation with his scales. And that was just him, like, breathing. It wasn't effort. There wasn't effort to do that, to produce that much Nen-based ability was insignificant to him. It wasn't, he didn't even blink, right? Pito's N covers a whole kingdom plus, kilometers wide, can sense kite from across a forest. I mean, the levels of power, the raw power, when you say strongest, what does that mean? Brute destructive power or brute ability? Because then there's a third thing is also their brute resistance to damage. So I just can't wait to see who's in front of Poof here, because the Royal Guard are in my top 5. It's Meruem, the Royal Guard, and Netero, Old Man. Prime Netero is in contention with the Guard. Then you could argue that Beyond is in there, in that mix. I don't even think Jing is there. I think Jing is right next to that level. The hunters like Razor and Jing and Xeno, they're right like A plus versus S. It's right at that cusp. But raw power, no. The Royal Guard, Meruem, Adult Gon's a conditioned state, but if we count it, Adult Gon is above the Royal Guard. But that's it. Let's keep going. I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait.
Because of Poof's ability. Most people would think that Patau is stronger than Poof, and she actually is in certain aspects. But for the most part, people will look at this panel where Poof says that his N is nowhere near as good as Patau's, and take that as Patau's Nen as a whole is on a completely different level. But that would actually be wrong, because N is just one simple aspect in terms of how Nen works in its entirety. For example, just because I have a superior Gyo, that does not mean I'm going to beat you in a fight.
It's true. Just because Pito has mass N does not necessarily mean that she can beat you in a fight. But the comparison is that the amount of aura these characters have to create such an N is so vast that they can't tire. They can't be hurt by traditional means. That's what it means. And Poof, while it doesn't really make it the N, he hypnotized a whole nation. That's a Nen ability, and he just spread that shit, and it didn't even phase him. The endurance levels of these characters at full strength is way beyond even Netero. Netero is the pinnacle of human endurance for a lot of reasons. Him, Jing, Razor showing that he was doing emitter spells across the island and still doing a dodgeball match at that capacity. But the scale, it just doesn't add up. Even those humans don't compare to the Guard in the grand scheme of what their raw capability is. Skill is different. Skill is a different decision. It's a different topic. But when you're looking at power, strength, the Guard are ahead. It just is how it is.
I would just be superior in that aspect. When it comes to Poof, we don't really get to see that much of his combat ability, because during the little time that we actually get to see of Poof, the only thing he is ever actually worried about is being by Meruem's side and manipulating the overall outcome of the palace invasion, trying to make Meruem into a king that is fit to rule over all life. But despite the lack of combat information that we actually have about Poof, his abilities in a generalized sense seem to be a lot more flexible than Patau's ever could be in terms of overall combat. With the ability Spiritual Message, Poof is able to read his opponent's psychological state by diffusing butterfly scales into the surrounding air and making the aura flow distinct. He analyzes the blend of 30 emotional patterns apparent in the aura flow, and from that,
which would make him a god in the Succession War. Can you imagine a Poof-like character in the war? Like, Cyrodiilic has this sort of preconception, like, advantage where he's reading his environment and surroundings way ahead of everybody else. And Poof can adapt to any situation better than almost any character. He outsmarted Morel, for example, and Morel is a top intellectual in the verse, and here comes Poof, and he outplays him. And Morel had other decisions to make and was tired, but it shows that wow, Poof comes with a huge advantage on his side. And people say, why didn't he just kill Morel? He's too weak to? No, it's not because he's too weak. It's because he's too smart. That Smoky Jail could have trapped him in there. And they knew about postmortem Nen. They learned from Pockle and their study of Nen. While they hadn't really shown dedication and mastery due to the fact that they were only, 1 or 2 months old by that point, they had, at the very least, understood that postmortem Nen or Nen could have side effects and that killing the target could be dangerous. And we see this trend in Togashi's writing where killing an opponent could be a bad idea. So I don't ever want to say, Poof couldn't kill Morel. It's not that he couldn't. It's that he didn't. And it's a very important distinction to make.
He can infer his opponent's thoughts. That means that he'll be able to predict your moves most likely before you ever actually make them. And being able to know the move that your opponent is about to make really does make that much of a difference. Poof's next ability, Beelzebub, King of Flies, allows him to assemble and disassemble himself at will into however many cells he sees fit. And this, as stated in the manga on more than one occasion, has made him invincible. But there is a catch. If you're able to destroy Poof's core, you can actually defeat him. But the rate at which you would actually be able to find his core would be slim to none, because every single time you were to destroy one of his cells, they would only reassemble themselves, ultimately making this a seemingly impossible game that you're thrown into of cat and mouse. Yep. And this would be a perfect example of how brute strength really means nothing in a Nen fight. If you were to pin these tools against anybody, they would have a rough time, unless you are capable of burning Poof's cells like Killua. So
again, I want to talk about this. People think this is a legitimate feat, that Killua is stronger than Poof. If this guy puts Killua in, I'm done. No, that's not Poof. That's a clone already drained from the essence transfer to Meruem. This is not a feat to show that Killua is stronger than Poof. I can't stand this shit. If Poof had his full Aura Reserve on hand and could defend against this, no. Killua is stating this as a fact. But we know that, look at Pito, right? She survived Adult Gomes Jajunkin. That's Pito with all of her capacity, pretty much. Poof didn't have that luxury. This was a paper-mache version of him that just got burned by the electricity. It's literally Nen construct, not even of the real Poof himself, with the actual ant physiology. So it's enough already. Let's stop with the BS. This is not full Poof. Enough! That's ridiculous. He just said he will burn them and kill his cells, but that's just because he can. Doesn't mean that he could against full Poof, which is a totally different game.
Would really be matchup based at that point. Now, if you were to pin all these tools against Patao, who is more or less a brute strength fighter, I think the math says that Patao would lose, because she would be thrown into a game of cat and mouse with Poof, ironically, because, Patao's a cat. And when you look at the bigger picture, I feel like Poof is definitely in the advantage.
Okay, so this is a one-on-one between Poof and Pito. I actually think that neither can really kill the other. It would just be a stalemate. Because in order for Poof to do damage, he would have to materialize back into himself, his actual being. And then Pito can react with Terpsichore. Is Poof able to withstand Terpsichore? Ask yourself that question.
Because Patao would be in a guessing game where she'd have to find the core of the cells to ultimately defeat Poof. And during this
time, but that's if Poof just keeps waiting. If you're saying they have to go in for the kill, that's why this combat is it's a stalemate. It's not gonna mean one kills the other. It's ridiculous. Now, Poof's scales are different. But I gotta see this guy's reasoning.
Constantly reassembling and applying damage to her. But there is a slight chance that she might be able to find the core and defeat him. But unfortunately, Spiritual Message would read her moves and she wouldn't be able to predict because Poof would always be one step ahead of her. For the most part, when it comes to Patal, you could definitely brute strength your way into defeating her, but when it comes to Poof, that is definitely not working. If I had to give you guys a good idea on how this would play out, it would play out most likely just like how the Hisoka and Chrollo fight did. And this is not even taking into account how Poof can actually reconfigure his vocal cords or facial structure. It is unknown whether or not Patal's end would be able to detect Poof's core, and even if it did, Patal's end would cost a lot of aura, and this would perfectly give Poof an opportunity to disassemble and reassemble and attack her. As for the number 9 spot, we have Youpi. With his destructive capabilities alone, his disgusting Nen pool, and almost unlimited resourcefulness on the battle.
So Pito is not in the top 10, and Youpi is. I'm still annoyed at this list, but that's woo, okay. Pito is way faster than Youpi. Youpi is susceptible to sabotage. Pito is not.
He is easily the strongest Royal Guard in number 9 on this list. His Nen pool is so disgusting. Knuckle,
they all
veteran
are.
Of over
they all
5,000
have
battles.
It's the same. All the guard have astronomical aura pools. All the feats show it. Poof hypnotizing a nation, not even sweating. The fact that he could still produce a clone halfway across the country after he had given most of his life essence to Merowyn. And that clone could almost ambush Killua with Godspeed enacted. Why don't people see this shit, man? This infuriates me, man. No one sees these trends. They don't really understand. They don't understand the situation. A highly weakened, suppressed version of Poof almost caught Killua with Komugi on his back, but almost caught them. Like, this Poof is barely alive. It's literally a child compared to the original. It's just, we gotta see context, and people lose track of the context sometimes, and it's just like, it goes to show the aura reserves have been displayed from all 3 characters in different ways, but they're way past even Netero in aura capacity. So that's a moot point.
Was able to quantify his opponent's power based on his past experiences and instincts. When we look at the elapsed time between the moment the palace started to get invaded and the amount of actions Youpi proceeds to make within this same elapsed time, it is absolutely insane. Within 3 seconds, Youpi conjures multiple eyeballs and arms and destroys this staircase.
Dude, if I see Jing or Chrollo or Zeno above a guard, I'm gonna flip out.
Leading to the second floor of the palace. By the time 4 seconds pass, meaning that Youpi performed all these actions in 1 second, he destroys the stairs and splits up the intruder, conjures multiple eyeballs and tendrils, analyzing his surroundings and getting ready to initiate an attack.
All the guard can do this level of perception and reaction speed. It's unreal. Well, people don't understand.
And there are multiple deep purple assassins surrounding him. Attack him, but Knuckle unfortunately hits him with
Hackaway. We know what happens in the story. I'm just going to keep
metamorphosis in almost a nanosecond, meaning he was able to process, react, and create limbs in less than a second, reacting to his opponent's resourcefulness that it ultimately provides him would absolutely form or take into account the amount of rage amps he could potentially have. As for the number 8 spot, I have Isaac Netero. So Patal full power on activation of her ability, or his, whatever pronouns you want to use, go ahead and do it, I don't care. We respect pronouns on this channel. So Trap Tal's ability takes less than 1 nanosecond from activation to attack. But oh boy, a nanosecond isn't enough against Netero. In less than a nanosecond, Netero can activate his 100 type Guan Yin Bodhisattva. He can deliver an attack so swift it is unavoidable. Less than 0.1 of a nanosecond. Do you understand how fast that is? That means Netero will literally slap Youpi, slapping him around like an ant.
And doing no damage. and doing 0 damage to him. For his entire, because we saw the feat, last stream I said it, and people still don't put this together, that Zero Hand was everything this Netero could produce. Everything in one shot. And it scraped Meruem's skin. So yeah, the guard will be heavily injured, broken bones, bleeding, coughing blood, but Netero will be dead after that is done.
Slapping him around like a volleyball. He is stomping on him like a roach while he is wearing Timbs. Can somebody scale the angry hood mother in Timbs versus 100 roaches?
Netero fanboy detected. I love Netero. This guy's saying he'd squash the guard like a bug. Dude, this guy's delusional. I'm sorry, Rosh. Like, dude, Pito took 0 damage.
I think she easily solos. That is literally how Netero versus Yuppie would play out. The fact that Netero was even able to clash with Maroon, someone out of Yuppie and all the rest of the Royal Guard's leagues, should at least tell you. If that scenario played out with the king with any of the Royal Guard, Netero could have defeated them. If Netero would have used his 0 hand on any single one of them, I doubt they would have survived. Now for the number
Wrong.
7 spot, we have Gon.
I still say they get heavily injured, but they're surviving.
Any ordinary version of Gon, adult Gon. Maroon was in a completely different league than Netero.
So at the very least, he puts adult Gon over Netero. Thank God. If he's counting the calamities as top 10, then this list, I mean, is not as bad as I thought. So let's see what he says.
Netero was. So much so that Netero's power in comparison was like a toddler's foot stomp. A tiny flicker of force compared to the king's full power. Enough power to make Netero jump back. More than twice his usual distance. This gap in power left Netero feeling insulted. Maroon is so strong he could probably kill Netero like it is nothing. Keep in mind, during the fight when these two clash, Maroon was trying to make Netero yield without killing him. His words exactly. Fine, but just enough to satisfy you. I won't kill you. I'll play.
Even more of a reason why this is a bullshit argument that he would stomp the guard. Because Meruem wasn't trying to kill him. Nobody seems to remember this. And he has no combat Hatsu, whatever. He's just launching himself at Netero, his raw body, getting slapped around.
Without a rook and bishop. When it comes to the Netero versus Maroon fight, it is rather one-sided. With Netero on the constant defense, with getting some lucky hits on Maroon, and Maroon finding a way to make Netero yield without killing him. So I could easily say that Maroon is in a completely different league than Netero. And Gon, adult Gon for that matter, just so happens to be in that same league. When Gon achieved his adult transformation, Patal feared his fangs because they had the potential to sink into the king, aka killing him and defeating him. Easily dodges her attacks and bullies her. The only reason why Patal was able to actually damage Gon was because he was having an emo, sad ninja hours and was caught off guard. So that considerably nerfed him. So if Patal actually feared that Gon could have had potentially killed Maroon, I think that would easily put him above Netero, considering that Maroon and Netero aren't even in the same league. Number 6 on the list is post-nuke Maroon. Literally this same Maroon that is in a completely different league than a majority of the cast of all Hunter x Hunter. One of the strongest characters in the entirety of the series.
So how about pre-road? We're talking like Meruem as a character, right?
He's so strong, he had to hold back the entirety of the fight. Then you take this same King of the Ants and give him the unlimited resourcefulness of both Poof.
Okay, so yeah, he's counting it as the same character. Okay, just just wanted to clarify that for people.
in Yuppie's powers. Also, stop trying to play Maroon and say he's only mountain level, because Yuppie's ability is based off of rage, and obviously during this feat, Maroon was not in rage. I can only imagine how strong this ability would actually be if he would have seen Komugi get hurt or something along those lines, aka actually getting upset before using this ability. With both unison, I would definitely say that Maroon is pretty dang busted, and you guys need to
If it's
give
not the
him a
calamities,
little more credit.
help,
And I
help
have
me,
yet to
help
actually
me,
take his end
help
of
me.
the
Just-
account, where he
it's
can
not-
read the physical and emotional
It's not-
properties of anything these photons touch that are around him. Now for number 5 on the list, I have Ging. Not only has Ging been
First of all, this guy even said before he's not going to count characters that we haven't seen powers for, and then he puts a Ging at number 5. Ging. Who's Ging? So Ging must be a character that doesn't exist in the show. No. No. No.
orchestrating and predicting a majority of the events that have happened throughout the series of Hunter x Hunter. He created
Oh, dude,
a
if I
video
see,
game.
if I see Gyro on here, I'm gonna. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. I'm sorry.
And world known as Greed Island, where such abilities exist through the use of cards. The skincare hot springs, a hot spring that cures you of any skin condition. Fickle Genie, a
Take
card
your
that makes a
fanboyism
genie
away
to
from
grant
analysis. You
3
have to do it. I
wishes
love Netero. I
and
love
so
him to death.
much
I love
more.
him.
He
But I know where he
basically
belongs
created
in the
a
list.
giant simulation of the Dark Continent through Greed Island. In a way, he created life through a virtual reality video game. Even though he didn't do these things by himself, nonetheless, they are still impressive. But not only this, he's actually top 5 NAN users in the world, even intimidating the likes of Beyond's hand-picked NAN experts to accompany him on the journey of the Dark Continent. Now, why is Ging higher than the Royal Guard in Maroon, you might be asking? Well, obviously, it's because he's top 5 greatest NAN users in the world of Hunter x Hunter. But not only this, the Chimera Ants, it turns out, they're actually considered a B-level threat. And when it comes to the Dark Continent, they'll be facing B+ to A-level threats while they are journeying on the Dark Continent.
No. That's not accurate, my man. Look, the reason is because against humanity, the ants were still beings. The calamities are plagues and diseases. That's why they're SAS class. The ants are physical beings. If Meruem had time to consume, he would be an A threat within months. He would have been upgraded to an A threat. No. That has nothing to do with why Ging is above the Guard or Meruem. Or Netero, for that matter.
Is able to take on these threats. Obviously, he'd be stronger than any B-level threat, especially if
No! There's no direct correlation between a threat's level and the strength of the being fighting them. Netero went to the Dark Continent and said there was no challenge for him, and yet he's not as strong as Ging? I'm just trying to use the logic against this guy. There's no logic. Endangers many lives. It's a disease.
He's top 5 NAN users. Ging is so strong and so proficient with NAN, he's able to actually pull an Atom Blade. And you know what? If you understood that reference, I officially love you. So anyways, Ging pulls an Atom Blade, gets hit, and is able to copy someone else's ability.
Yeah, problem is he gets hit by Netero or a guard and he's dead.
But unfortunately, it's only punching abilities. But this lets us know if Ging gets hit with a little boy, he'd be able to copy it. God, please tell me you're getting these references. Number 4 on this list, believe it or not, I know a lot of you are about to be like, what the flying flip-flop? And yes, number 4 on this list is Action.
I knew it! I knew I smelled a Crollo fanboy with this video. I knew it. I fucking knew this guy was a Crollo fanboy. Ah! I love Crollo. I love Crollo. I love Crollo. I love him to death. He's amazing. I'll be right back. This is too much. This is too freaking much. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This guy puts Crollo above the guard, Netero, and Meruem. And he had to pull out this elaborate plan to beat Hisoka, and all he could manage was blowing up a stadium ring. Could Crollo have an ace level ability up his sleeve? Sure he could. Sure he could. Yeah, of course he could. He could have a detonate the world. Like, he could have some crazy last page ability. We don't know. But that's all theory and conjecture. There's nothing indicating that he is comparable to a guard level Netero, Meruem, Adult Gon level character. He puts him above Adult Gon, dude. Just think about that. This is ridiculous. I knew he was a Crollo fan. Now, who the hell is above this?
Crollo, hear me out. There is a reason why I put him above Ging. Because, specifically,
Ging.
Crollo has a phone book, a Bible of Nen abilities.
Oh,
As
it's
far
religious.
As we're concerned,
okay, he's religious.
Crollo could have counter abilities to almost everybody in the series.
But he has to activate them. And that's also just fan theory. And then on top of that, we don't know what the conditions are for those abilities. So it's like you've got to open up a book to study this in itself. Ah, man, that's...
He could even have Nen abilities that could more or less cut your Nen off. And if Crollo were to cut off, let's say, Ging's Nen or anybody else's Nen for that matter, that would make him easily...
There is no ability in the verse that can just restrict Nen without a condition. None. None. APR. Look at the condition for APR. Look at how it works. What this guy says is he could open his book and cut off your Nen. There's no freaking way. No. Because guess what? He would have just done that against Hisoka in their fight. Hello? Like, logic. Pay attention to the story. Logic. Togashi made that fight for a reason. You know? Oh, God.
Not number 4 on this list, and this is not taking into account that he's a leader of the Phantom trope and was basically toying around with Zeno and Silva. If his disgusting amount of resourcefulness and Togashi RNG aren't enough for you, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm having too much fun.
We don't know what's in the phone book, but the phone book has so many abilities, and not only this, he uses those abilities to their max potential. So if he's using hundreds of pages worth of different abilities on you, how do you fight that?
He can't. Do you know how his ability works, dude? He has to commit to one ability or have a bookmark on a second. This is not... He can't just fucking pull shit out of his ass. He has to come into a fight with a plan of maybe like 5 to 6 abilities. He's not pulling out 100. I can't stand this dude. I love it, dude. It's too much fun. I love
I'm
this.
not a Chrollo
I love
fanboy.
this.
I'm just genuinely asking. He's got the skills, in the battle sense, in the resources to basically win almost any encounter ahead of him. Obviously, because he has the Togashi RNG. He'll only really lose if Togashi wants him to. I know a lot
like
of people
any
try to
other
downplay
character,
Chrollo
dude.
because
It's a
of the Hisoka
fictional
versus
story.
Chrollo fight, because I guess for some reason a lot of readers think that Chrollo is fighting at his limits or trying his hardest to defeat Hisoka, but that was not the case.
I love this. Is way too much fun. I freaking love this. And dude, people call me stupid for saying that Netero loses to the Gar. I had people commenting, "You have no idea what you're talking about. There's no way." Dude, when you put out a topic list, you're gonna be critiqued. It's that simple. I know what it feels like. All right. This is all fun. It's all just a story. It's all fictional. I love reasoning. I love debating reasoning. It's like, because we all love this series. We love it, right? What kind of thought process is that, though? Like, Chrollo, who wanted to get rid of Hisoka and spent a year devising a plan and a fight situation, which is what happened, didn't try his best against Hisoka, and also didn't employ the ultimate plan to beat him. You just contradicted yourself before saying, oh, Chrollo could just shut off your Nen with a skill. Because if that was true, he would have just done that and called the fight over. The goal was to get rid of Hisoka. Jeez, man. I love this. This is too much fun.
At all. In the words of Chrollo, style is important in a game, right? More than the outcome. Hisoka, won't you be more insistent on winning? Don't be such a turnoff. Of course I plan to win, but what about yourself? This fight between the two was more about style and crushing Hisoka's spirit more than anything else, showing Hisoka that he's in a completely different league than...
No. The whole fight was constructed to show that Chrollo planned for a victory and did everything correctly to beat Hisoka. That's what it showed. The entire fight was Chrollo adding distance and numbers against Hisoka, not fighting him head on. That was a strategy. There's a reason.
Him. For example, his demonstration of using his bookmark ability. He didn't have to do that. He was just showing how far away Hisoka was from him. But by the time Hisoka was chasing Chrollo, he had already lost the fight. This entire fight, Chrollo was teaching Hisoka that he acquires all these different abilities and then waits until the conditions for a sure victory. The entire time, Chrollo was showing Hisoka all of the conditions that he laid out in front of him and how he works around them. There's a reason why Chrollo says this to Hisoka. That's the end of the explanation. I'm not saying this as a challenge, but I'll win. I'm 100% sure. He then asks Hisoka, will you continue? Because no matter what, with the amount of tools that Chrollo has and his battle wits, one of Hisoka's weaknesses and exploited them in style. Number 3 on this list is Surdnich, and that is because he has the most broken ability in the series. When he uses Zetsu, he has the ability to have reality play out in front of him and then overwrite it. Meaning, even if you were to shoot him in the head, none of that would matter because he'd be able to overwrite that with his own reality.
What if there was a secure place?
As of right now, there is no known way to counter or kill him. This ability is so strong, he can even use it consecutively.
So, in this field, let's just do an example. Let's say Poof spreads out his scales, right? And Saradnik sees that the entire city is covered in scales. So his 10-second view is going to save him, right? Yuppie's about to blow up a freaking, area. A whole palace of a mile of land. And Saradnik's ability is going to save him, right? Right? I'm just trying to get that right. In this arc, he's God. That's true. It's true. But this is not every scenario that could ever happen. So you're taking a highly specialized situation with a Nen Beast on top of it. Take him out of the Succession War, and are you really telling me that Saradnik is fighting against even a character like, I don't know, like the Bomber? Maybe.
He basically creates a parallel world and then overwrites the real world.
Of course he does. He's my dude. I love this dude.
So what happens is he'll close his eyes and see into the future 10 seconds from the normal time he's in. From that moment onward, he will experience or see what is happening 10 seconds into the future. No matter what Surdnich may do, people will still experience what they perceived in his vision. To put it simply, his ability is actually invincible, creating a parallel world and replacing the world with that creation that he just envisioned and enacted. If you were to kill him and the actions played out of you killing him during the time his ability is activated, time would skip. You would experience and see the fact that you killed him or shot him in the head.
And yet Saradnik can't damage a single opponent that you put on this list legitimately. At this time. No damage, no ability that could hurt that character. So are you telling me he's stronger?
But unfortunately, the actions that you just perceived and experienced never.
It's a defensive mechanic, and it's god tier.
He has this broken ability just by using and maintaining Zetsu, and not only this, he has 2 Nen Beasts at his disposal.
Conditional. We gotta remit. Oh, dude. This is why scaling has to be done so selectively. You can't just throw Saradnik into the invasion arc because you won't have the beasts with him. He'd be amazingly effective to help a team out, but he can't damage anybody in that arc.
Rightfully so, giving him the number 3 spot on this list. As for number 2 on the list, we have Beyond Netro. Beyond Netro is so strong. His name signifies that he is literally beyond Netro in every single aspect.
It's proven, guys. He's the strongest character because his name says so. I love this dude's reasoning. It's too much entertainment, man. I love this stuff. I live for this stuff. I swear. I live and breathe this type of stuff. I love hearing people's thought process behind this stuff. Yeah. By the way, I think on appearance and introduction alone, he is on Netero's level. He's in that Royal Guard discussion. Yes, he's one of the strongest. I think that's a fair estimate to make. But I would never say that's just because of his name. It's where he is in his age. It's what his experiences have been and who his father was. Those 3 things and his confidence could not be more on display going into this arc. He's just sitting there chilling. He doesn't care. Anyhow, I love the reasoning.
He is the only human being who's lived on the Dark Continent and came back to tell the tale about it. Outside of number 1 on this list, of course. He's such a monster that someone like Ging would consider being number 2 under him. When a young Netro in his prime saw the Dark Continent, he said that the world was too big and refused to go explore it. Yet Beyond Netro has explored it and is leading a civilization there to excavate it. Beyond Netro is so strong, quoting Netro himself, he says that his son is probably more suited to be a hunter than even him himself. Keep in mind the Dark Continent is filled with B+ to A level threats and the Chimera Ants were only labeled as a B. This quest is so difficult, Netro said that it is an undisputedly A rank. We have not seen Beyond's Nen ability in action, but based on these feats, I feel as if he is undisputedly number 2 on this list.
Here we go.
As for number
Here comes
1 on this
Here
list,
comes
the strongest
Alaka.
in the entirety of the
Here
series,
comes Alaka.
we have Gon's granddad and Ging's dad, Gon Freeze.
Nanika isn't on this list with Killua. I know it's a condition, but I'm just saying. The calamities aren't on this freaking list, man, and you put Don't on it. Yo! I love this. This is too much fun. This is way too much fun. You all know my thoughts on that. Dome Freaks could have an immortality Hatsu, or a longevity Hatsu, or a invisibility ability, or something where he can just sneak around and write about this stuff and not get found or get hurt. It has to be something to let him sustain himself there. I think he's godly. I think, yes, the condition is he's on there and he's a god. Now, the last thing, I only have a couple minutes, guys. I do have to head out, but let's just finish up here and read the comments. When you think that these are all casual fans, dude. I'm sorry. Is anyone here actually... What if he is cursed? Great point, right? He's cursed to live on that land for the rest of his days. We know Zombie exists. Maybe he can use a variation of Zombie and live forever. Thank you. Dude, yo. I love it. I love this shit. I can't stop. I gotta go though. I do have to end this, unfortunately, guys. This was way too much fun. I want to thank Rash for the video and the entertainment. This was way too much fun, and I had a blast just going off on it. Great time. I do have to go, guys. This was a short one, but I hope it was a sweet one and a fun one. So I'm going to leave it here, and I'll catch you